Jeez, that sounds ill as freaky. You open your eyes. It's pitch dark here, the blackness of a coffin, drifting in the abyss. Oh, right, the light. You grasp for the switch, flip it, the familiar cramped room with a steel door and no windows comes into view. You emerge from... This time, however, Sophie is waiting for you, comfortably seated on the sofa in your living room space, a book in her hand. The Melancholy of Resistance. The title's sure on brand. Good evening, Koda. Mingling with the monsters. Okay. Good evening, Sophie. I hope you rested well. Tonight will be quite eventful, I think. Come, we have an appointment. I received word Elysium would be called again tonight on account of your unruly friend from Corona Park. This should be a great opportunity for you to mingle. She keeps talking as you walk downstairs and get in the car. Gregory gives you a slight nod and a small smile while opening the door for Sophie. He starts the car when you take your seat in the back. Most of the Primigan Council is bound to be there, at least those who usually attend. Probably some other important personalities you do well to at least learn about. You never told me if there's any savoir-vivre? Savoir-vivre? Kind of rules I should respect when talking to other vampires. Knowing that you're among your superiors is probably the most important. In our society, status comes with age. Part of my sincerity, but you are insignificant. Not even associating with me can make the fact that you've been kindred for barely a few nights be forgotten. So know your place, stay out of your superior's business, and show the utmost respect. Thanking the prince for sparing you and maybe having a friendly chat with Kadir publicly might show your gratefulness for being a part of the Camarilla now. I would suggest you make it sincere. At any rate, you should behave yourself tonight. Remember what I told you about reflecting on me as your patron. I have a reputation to uphold in the court. Do not tarnish it. There it is. She might have saved you, she might be protecting you and teaching you, but it's clear what she's really concerned about, her own interests. You step into the art hole with something of a bad memory. Last time you were here, your entire world had been turned upside down and your existence nearly ended. But tonight, there is very little outward hostility. Yes, Kadir gives you a look that's definitely intended to remind you of your place. But, yeah. Welcome, Sophie, Koda. Did I get that right? Good evening to both of you. I understand there's somebody else you wish to present to the court tonight? Yes, Prince, they'll be joining us shortly. My assistant is retrieving them presently. This better be worth the prince's time, Langley. The prince gives Kadir a cold glance. Forgive the sheriff's harshness. He's in a particularly foul mood tonight. Something to do with Koda's begetter eluding his grasp, I believe. Ouch, that must have hurt his ego, even if his only reply is a crooked smile. The mention of your sire makes you come back to all the talk of eschewing societal norms and disillusionment with the status quo you enjoyed back in the club. Look at you now, behaved, agreeable. She likely won't be too happy with this whole setup. Prince, court, hierarchy, titles, but hey, she's gone, probably forever. If you ever break out of this, it'll be on your own. The flaring up of whispers in the gallery hall breaks you out of your thoughts. Gregory enters the room. The jumpsuit-clad, inerrant vampire is still staked on his shoulder. The show is about to start. Sophie's driver places his charge in the middle of the room and nods respectfully to Kadir. Sheriff approaches the vampire and removes the stake from his chest. The captive's eyes flicker to life and he starts looking around in disbelief, like a cornered animal. He backs out on all fours, keeps going in circles until he realizes he's trapped. Kadir steps on the man's chest and pins him to the floor. Why? Who do we have here? Oh fuck. Oh shit. No, come on, don't. Silence. The sheriff takes on an aura of utter dread. He appears as if he's a primal force in nature that's out to get you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do but shrivel in terror. The beast inside you shrieks. You could swear it happens in unison with the instincts of some of the other guests here tonight. Sorry, quick drink. Anyways, it's unlike anything you've experienced in his company during your turbulent first night as a vampire. He really did go easy on you, all things considered. Seems like it takes all of the hoodlum's willpower to not crawl into a fetal position and start crying. No, please, don't hurt me, man. Don't. You and me are going to have a little talk downstairs at the prince's discretion. Please, go ahead, my sheriff. You heard the prince. Get up. Let's go. He doesn't wait for a confirmation, he just grabs the man and drags him. Kicking and screaming out of the room, conversations start all around you, some whispered, some quite overt. Sophie looks somewhat bored of the whole affair, her eyes wandering from art piece to art piece, clearly finding nothing to her particular liking. So, what happens now? It'll be at least some minutes before Kadir gets the information he seeks out of this thug. Why not mingle while we wait for him to break? Excuse me. Sophie leaves your sight and goes to a corner of the gallery where a group of kindred, some seemingly pretty old-fashioned, gathered. Concierge offers you a drink, still warm. It smells nice. Just a sip to start you off. A splash over your palate, coating your tongue and the inside of your cheeks. Nourishment. You're left to your own devices. You have a quick look around. The prince is currently talking to a dark-skinned woman that you recall seeing her here those few nights ago. She has a cold but noble countenance to her. Her conversation seems to be casual. A loud, shrill laugh turns your attention to the bespectacled man who you saw with Sophie on the night of your judgment. He's making the rounds, chatting up different patrons. You feel somebody's eyes on you. A casually dressed, plain-looking man stands alone near a column, watching you. He turns his gaze away sheepishly when he realizes you've noticed. Sucks to that guy. There's something about this guy. It's not that he's staring at you. Most everybody in this room has, at one point or another. It's how he does it. He seems shy, maybe even afraid. It's hard to find a secluded spot in the gallery tonight, but this guy has an entire corner of the room all to himself. As you approach, he's standing alone with no glass in hand, a worried look on his face. Good evening, Mr. Larson, or you can call me Robert. Either's fine. Why are you standing around by yourself like this? I'm not hugely liked around these parts. I'm surprised you wanted to talk to me. Then again, you're new, so you probably don't know. I'm one of Prince Panhard's Primogen. I'm here on business, in case the prince requires my insight. Usually it's so she can hear me out before ignoring me. Not sure if you were paying attention the other night, but when the prince mentioned diverging opinions on whether you should be executed or not, that was me. I was the diverging opinion. That's huge. Thank you, even if it didn't change the prince's mind. Yeah, that's usually how it goes. Listen, I don't want to be rude, and I appreciate you reaching out, but word of advice? Stay away from me. Many vampires in this sect regard my position as Primogen to be some kind of a joke. You know? You talk to me, they'll notice, and they'll hold it against you. You have a quick look behind you and see that a few of the kindred keep shooting you curious glances. One woman in particular, a redhead boasting a fanciful hairstyle, watches you disapprovingly. Some of them already do, I imagine. Excuse me, I need to try to get a word in with a few Primogen members before Kadir returns. Enjoy your night. With just the critical looks of a few kindred to keep you company, you start thinking about who to pursue next. You know, Sophie mingling with other kindred. Kadir hasn't come back yet, so you can probably still find time for at least one more conversation. I could try to talk to the prince, but that would also be rude. You approach the prince, trying to stay as respectful of her private conversations as possible. She glances at you as you step forward, her scrutinizing gaze mimicked by her companion. She addresses the dark-skinned woman before turning to you. Excuse me for just a moment, Samira. Yes, Koda? What is it? I wish to thank you for sparing me, Prince. I realize it wasn't an easy decision to make, and I want to express my sincere appreciation. How thoughtful of you. She takes a long look at you before she continues. I didn't do it from the kindness of my unbeating heart. You are an asset to Miss Langley, to the Camarilla, and to me. I believe I made the right decision. Prove to me and the other kindred of the city that was so, and there might be more to your future nights than just survival and servitude. A dark-skinned woman looks impatiently at you and catches the prince's attention. Forgive me, that's all the time I can spare right now. We have some things to discuss with Samira still. Enjoy your night, Koda. And the same to you, Prince Panhard. The prince nods and turns back to the other woman to continue their conversation. A loud exchange near the staircase grabs everyone's attention. Kadir is back, and the hoodlum is with them. The sheriff pushes the other vampire inside the room. The vampire that threatened you last night is a mess. That stupid hat is still inexplicably on his head, covering some of his ruined face in welcome shadow. He's barely conscious. His shin is broken, you think. Something protruding there, making the pant leg bulge. One arm seems twisted at a strange angle. Very little blood, surprisingly, but clearly a whole lot of hurt. Well, Kadir, did our guest cooperate? Tell the prince your name. It's Howard. And who do you run with, Howard? The Midnighters. An anarch coterie, my prince. Active for some time now. Though from what this one told me, the name is about the only legacy the group has kept over the years. What's a coterie? A small group of kindred, united by the need for support and sometimes common interests. Okay. I see. Hey, Prince, I didn't mean it. I didn't know. I didn't... Loud crack makes some of the guests audibly gasp as Kadir's slap dislocates the man's jaw. A spray of blood creates something like an abstract art piece on the floor. This one is guilty of threatening a member of the Camarilla and claiming a domain without the prince's approval. That alone will be enough to pass swift judgment, but he is also anarch scum. My prince, there can be only one verdict, final death. Do your duty, sheriff. Unless, of course, somebody would like to play at being a good Samaritan like our dear Miss Langley a few nights ago. The look the prince serves you and Sophie is a cruel jest. Sophie takes it gracefully, smiling and slipping her arm under yours in a strange public show of affection. Nobody says anything. The vampire named Howard jumps to his feet and makes for the window. It's not my place. Do not intervene. You have a feeling Howard's efforts are fruitless. Just a few seconds later, that feeling is confirmed. He almost reaches the window. Almost, but not quite. In what seems like a blink of an eye, Kadir appears, first near his scabbard his sword in one corner of the gallery, and then next to the escaping anarch on the opposite side of the room. The next moment, Howard's head flies off of his body, baseball cap free. His lifeless corpse crumbles to the ground and begins to decompose in real time. It's an uncanny sight. As always, our sheriff does not fail to impress. I would like to thank Miss Langley for bringing this anarch thug to my and Kadir's attention. I assume all have found the verdict satisfactory? It's a rhetorical question, and everybody here knows it. Then I consider tonight's meeting concluded. Good night to all of you. She steps out of the room, and you see that many of the guests move to do the same. Sophie seems to be conversing with somebody, a serious-looking man in a trench coat, about what transpired. You probably have the time to strike up a conversation of your own, too. Kadir al-Asmay is still here for one, but clearly getting ready to leave. Larson is still moping around, and the other man you noticed before Kadir brought the anarch in is still chatting with remaining attendants. Let's talk to Kadir. The sheriff's mood seems to have improved, so you decide you won't get a better shot at saying your piece. He is just sheathing his sword as you approach him. He notices you just before his face turns from a melancholy frown back to his regular predatory smirk. You seem to have caught him in a moment of reflection. What is it, Koda? I wanted to thank you for bringing me here in one piece, for giving me a chance. An emotion creeps onto Kadir's face that you haven't seen the sheriff exhibit yet. Is that gratitude? It's fleeting, only there for a moment, gone in the blink of an eye. It was trying on my nerves, and you are still far and away from proving that was the right thing to do, so don't think that a few kind words will let you off the hook. I wonder, how does it feel to bring a lamb to the slaughter the way you did tonight? Do you feel any remorse? Regret? I'm going to enjoy guessing. If there's nothing else, I'll be taking my leave. Tell me, do you enjoy this? Being a sheriff for Prince Panhard? Enjoyment has nothing to do with this. It's my duty. When Calibros asked me to fill the shoes of the sheriff and root out our enemies, I was glad to serve the sect. When Helene became prince, and asked that I keep doing this, I agreed, because I believe in the Camarilla and I respect the fact that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. He picks up the sword and turns toward the stairs. If more Kindred understood that, my job would be much duller, though. On that note, I wish you a good night. And watch yourself. You've messed up my batting average, so I'll be sure to keep a close eye on you. With that final threat, he leaves the gallery. It's right about when Sophie also ends her conversation and walks over to you. Interesting evening, wasn't it? Come, Gregory's waiting downstairs. She seems preoccupied with something, and not in a talkative mood. It's an awkward ride back to the city. This time, you arrive at another building, just 2 streets across from your apartment. She brings you upstairs through a very nice lobby and a luxurious-looking hall into her domain. Please, have a seat. I shall be right with you. You take in your surroundings. The apartment is like a gallery. An old-school smoking room that you've seen some period piece once, and nouveau riche living room, meticulously combined together. Apologies, old habits die hard. Clearly, some stick with you even after your death. She drags on her cigarette and breathes out. Breathes. How is she doing that? Can you do that? Oh yes, you might not know. It takes some practice, but you can keep smoking if you'd like. Other things too. Experiment. You might surprise yourself. But I did not bring you here to show off. This is where I rest these nights. That door in the back, the bedroom, similar to yours. I have servants and bodyguards in addition, of course. I brought you here because I need you to trust me. When I told you before that I needed your best behavior to uphold my good standing with the court, I meant it. But that's not the whole story. I have your interests in mind too. That's why I've given you your own haven. Why I'm trying to teach you how to navigate this new reality. But you need to trust me, or else this won't work. You can come here whenever you feel like asking me something when you're in trouble too, though I hope that won't happen often. I would ask you to come here when you wake up tomorrow. I'll have something to discuss with you. Okay, I'll come over first thing tomorrow night. I appreciate that. That's silence again. There's definitely something on Sophie's mind tonight, but she doesn't seem eager to share it with you just yet. I'm leaving for another visit. Come downstairs with me. We'll give you a lift. A quick trip, a promise that you show up tomorrow, and some polite goodbyes later. You open the door to your haven and gather your thoughts. It's exciting in a way, being dragged deeper and deeper into this secret society and its rules. Wherever Sophie is planned for you, it's bound to teach you more about this thing you have become. You sink into your vampiric sleep with just a sliver of hope. It's a welcome change. Once more, darkness falls upon the city. You wake up, same as you have these past few nights, in a windowless room. As you pry open the reinforced steel door, you look out the window to see, invariably, a sky bereft of sunlight. Then it hits you, the hunger. Gather your click and venture forth. For a moment, you let yourself wonder if there will ever come a night when it's just not there. Given what you've learned thus far, you probably have as much chance of kick-starting your heart with jumper cables. You lock the door behind you and head over to Sophie's apartment. You did promise to call on her. Might as well not keep the lady waiting. And hey, what else are you gonna do? Call Jess? Yeah, right. What would you tell her? If she even picked up at all, she'd probably use the opportunity to stick some more needles in you. Or worse, persuade you to come back. Or go back to work? Yeah, who are we kidding? HR probably found a replacement the day after you went missing. Nobody there cares if you got kidnapped or turned into a creature of the night. These thoughts put you in a weird mood. It's a strange sensation to walk the crowded streets, same as you have so many times before, but feeling so disconnected. All these people, you're not one of them. Not anymore. You're a vampire. Kindred, and you need to carve your own path in this strange new existence, one way or another. Appropriately enough, you arrive at Sophie's building just as that thought crosses your mind. Quick word with the security guard and you're let into the elevator. Apparently Miss Langley is expecting you. Of course she is. You knock and wait patiently as the footsteps on the other side grow closer. Finally, the door opens and Gregory, Sophie's driver, invites you in. You find the lady herself standing by the window, silhouetted against the city's midnight glow. She stares out, motionless, like a marble statue. Good evening, Sophie. She doesn't react immediately, but seems to snap out of some meditative state and looks at you with strangely bleary eyes. Yes, good evening, Koda. I was wondering, when you look out at the city, when you see the lights, hear the hum, smell the rain on the pavement, what do you think about? You gaze out. The lights and rain, the relentless honking below, music blasting from a nearby window, echoing off of buildings. Someone should record an hour of this and throw it up on YouTube as an ambient piece. Other than that, though, it's business as usual. The sights, the sounds, the smells, you know them all too well. Sophie watches you. You can tell she's disappointed somehow, but she covers it up with a courteous smile. Well, not everyone can appreciate the intricacies that the world offers. In fact, among kindred, my clan is somewhat notorious for finding innate meaning, even in the mundane. You see, the blood that flows within me is that of Clan Toreador. Ah. Accomplished artists. Art encompasses all forms of entertainment and stimulation. Clan of the Rose courts the greatest actors, singers, writers, dancers, and even sex workers. If the degenerates believe such morals will offer something new to their clan, despite the custom of embracing only the best, Toreador fixation on beauty and innocence has caused many a diva to make a fledgling in haste. Many a moonlight night, new clan members have emerged as shallow hedonists, one-hit wonders, or just a stunning body with nothing else to offer. Nicknames are divas, harlots, sensates, perverts, hedonists, degenerates. There are 13 such bloodlines among us, kindred. Though that number has been contested in the past, in these nights it seems that nothing is certain anymore. The clans have gone by many epithets over the years, but the names used these nights have their roots in medieval times. The original Inquisition, if you can believe it. They used these to categorize us, describe our inherent differences. In time, we adopted them ourselves. Each clan has a uniqueness about it, inescapable, originating from an ancient progenitor, carried from sire to child. For the Toreador, the gift lies in a sensitivity of sorts. We are uniquely attuned to beauty and ugliness both. We can see either, or most cannot. A blessing on most nights, occasionally a curse. The sheriff is of my clan as well, although you'd be hard-pressed to see him as such. Poor Kadir, breaks my heart to see him in this state. Still, there's a beauty to it as well. Nothing like a good fall from grace. Try as she might to act playful, you can tell she genuinely cares. She lets her gaze wander for a brief moment, but is quick to regain her composure. Then there are the Ventru, known for their pride and proclivity to rule over others. The prince represents that clan, as is quite common in our society around the globe. Where the blue bloods think themselves rulers, the Bruja like to see themselves as preeminent revolutionaries. They call for a universal rebellion while being slaves to their own temper. We don't discuss the rabble much anymore, not after they've largely broken off with the Camarilla, to think they were philosophers once, long ago. I hope to tell you more about some of the other bloodlines tonight. Say I meet a vampire for the first time, how can I tell what their clan is? Usually you cannot, with a few exceptions perhaps. For some clans, the uniqueness I mentioned bleeds into their appearance or disposition, but even that can be misleading. Outside of a few very specific cases, knowing one's clan is less important than understanding who they are personally, what drives them, their wants and needs, weaknesses too. Speaking of which, we come to the reason I want to speak with you tonight. It is customary in our society, especially among younger kindred, to organize into coteries. Sometimes these are called by the prince themselves or mandated by a fledgling sire. In our case, you may treat it as more of a strong recommendation. I want you to seek out companions, not only because you need to learn more about our society, but also because it is useful. True friendships are rare among kindred, but having allies, even temporary ones, something is of a necessity these nights. We might be selfish creatures, but we are drawn to each other's nothingness. Drawn to each other nonetheless. That was very different. Any suggestions on where I should start looking? I was just about to get to that. She puts on a mysterious smile. I spent some of my precious time last night asking around, pondering potential kindred for you to meet. Came up with a short list of contacts. I hope you'll appreciate the gesture. Forging a partnership with them might offer perspectives and viewpoints that I cannot provide. Lenses through which to view our kind. They are all members of the Camarilla, of course, more or less. Thanks, I guess. You know this might feel awkward, but trust me, it's the easiest way. You'll find you still have much to learn, and it's best if you have many tutors. So let us start with the Tremere. They are a powerful clan, disliked by many, but feared and respected by many more. They have been an important pillar of the Camarilla since the very beginning. They are blood sorcerers. You look at Sophie with a hint of disbelief. Blood sorcerers? Pretty sure Mark from QA used to brag about having a level 70 blood sorcerer. Somehow you don't think he meant magical vampires. Sophie snickers. Oh child, don't be caught with that look on your face when you meet a warlock in person. They really are adept at using vitae, their own as well as others, to unique and potent effects. What's vitae? Archaic term for the blood of a vampire. Since they are quite rigid in their hierarchy, the kindred I had in mind, you might need some persuading. His name is Agathon. From what I hear, he is quite the scholar, very ambitious, the child of a noted Tremere here in New York, Aisling Sturbridge. Spend enough time with Agathon, I'm sure you'll run to her sooner or later. This whole blood magic thing sounds intriguing. Oh yes, fascinating. It is also a well-kept secret of the Tremere. Don't expect them to share it right away. Some things have to be earned. Anyway, if you wish to contact the young Tremere, I hear you can usually find him in a New Age bookstore out on Broadway. The Tremere have one of their workshops there. Gregory will give you the details. Now this next recommendation comes with a bit of a caveat. As you recall me saying, most bloodlines have unique features that might not be obvious at first glance. Well, there's one clan whose members wear their curse on their sleeve. The Nosferatu. Man, what's with the goofy names? Guess they're really big on Blue Oyster Cult. Oh, that's a funny reference right there. No wonder they make their havens and sewers, abandoned buildings and such. Their appearance is hideous and obviously unnatural. Had they walked the streets like other kindred, the kind would have learned of our existence long ago. Did she just shudder? It's hard to tell with her usual complexion, but you could swear her skin suddenly took on an even more sickly color. The one I have in mind isn't as big an eyesore as the worst of them, but he is no Adonis either. Still, he has some talents and connections that you might find useful. His name is D'Angelo, and he has an office, for lack of a better term, in the otherwise abandoned grain terminal in Red Hook, right next to one of those Swedish stores. The name escapes me, the ones with the awful furniture. A Swedish furniture store? You mean IKEA? Yes, that's it. My mind struggles to retain things that are aesthetically displeasing. D'Angelo does odd jobs for Kadir, digging up dirt, locating kindred who would prefer to remain hidden, the kind of work the Nosferatu are best at. He's on a case right now, something to do with kind murders, I think. After your initial brush with our dear sheriff, I think it would be wise to show some goodwill towards his agenda. Assisting D'Angelo with his investigation might be just the thing. She takes a brief pause to look out the window again. Now come the two more exotic proposals. Exotic, as if the blood mage and the vampire detective were business as usual. You may have heard about the Gangrel before. They are a wild clan in touch with their beasts in a way others might not dare to attempt. They mostly keep out of big cities, but there are exceptions. Nominally, they haven't been a part of the Camarilla for over 2 decades, but the one kindred I'd like you to meet has strong, shall we say, familial ties to the sect. Her name is Tamika. Her sire, Jezebel, was instrumental during the Battle of New York back in 1999, the very same battle that cemented the city as a Camarilla domain. Sadly, her achievements have gone largely unrecognized. Tamika and a number of her siblings still reside in the domain they were awarded after the battle, Prospect Park. Jezebel herself left the city some years ago, fed up with being unappreciated. You seem to know a lot about her sire, but is there anything else you can tell me about Tamika? I asked around. Out of all of Jezebel's childhood, Tamika is known to be the most rational and cool-headed, at least for a gang girl. That said, she's like to have a unique way of appraising your worth. I can't say how exactly, but you should be prepared for an interesting conversation at the very least. Then again, that could be said of almost every kindred in the city. There's that mysterious smile again. So you see, seeking out Tamika could prove quite educational if nothing else. And who knows, perhaps you will find her temperament to be a welcome change of pace. But speaking of a change of pace, I have one last suggestion for you, though it's one I don't make lightly. The kindred who calls herself Hope. She's a Malkavian. They are a uniquely cursed, insane, unhinged. Oh, sorry, we consider them mad, insane, unhinged. But those of us who spend enough time with them come to understand the truth. It is no sickness, but a unique perception of the world, and as them appear to us as an unstable, and that perception can prove to be very valuable. Having a Malkavian as your companion might be taxing on the nerves and a true test of patience at times, but their insight and intuition are unrivaled among kindred. As for Hope, specifically, she is said to be a recluse, but I have it on good authority that she can currently be found in an internet cafe. I believe it's called in Lower Manhattan. Gregory is the address. Where'd you learn about her exactly? One of my colleagues told me about her. He considers her uniquely talented and tapped into the current fads among kind. Not something I am personally interested in, as I'm sure you know by now. I take his word for it at any rate. Well, I believe that's all of them. I still have a few social calls to make tonight, so I'll leave you to it. Use tonight and tomorrow night to arrange some cordial visits of your own. I will send Gregory for you as soon as I have further need of your services. Oh, that reminds me, you will need a car. Join us downstairs, won't you? She smiles once more and turns to her driver. He helps her put on her coat, and the three of you leave Sophie's apartment. Sophie points to one of the cars near the building as Gregory hands you the keys. It's a rather inconspicuous compact car, a decent-looking, if not luxurious ride. Stay safe, Koda. This is your first night alone. Don't let it be your last. As they drive away, you find yourself with more freedom than you've had for the past few nights. A blessing or a burden. Time will tell. With a list of addresses in your hand, you consider your next move. So now the choice.